But hi again. Now we're lucky White House. Time from work here. I've always heard of it.
Does the camera lean this way? Oh my gosh. Hello everyone, welcome. We are so excited you all were able to make it out to our first in-person event of the year and first event in like 2 years besides our socials. So thank you. We are going to go ahead and get started. First, if you didn't know, Hexagon, we are a community who is supporting women and non-binary people in their journeys into UX, whether they're new, whether they are mid-level, whether they are seniors, managers, just however we can support you in your journey, we're here to do that for you. Before we get started with our icebreaker, we have a quick announcement about our mentorship program.
Hi everyone. So I'm Carrie Belcher. I'm one of the co-leads for the mentorship group here at Hexagon. And so we run biannual, so twice yearly mentorship cohorts in the spring and then in the fall. And in April, we have our spring cohort. And so currently we're recruiting for mentors. And so we're looking for people who have worked in the industry for 3 or so years. We're looking for mentors. And additionally, so this QR code should bring up the FAQ, and that has a bunch more details about the program, how it works. And the mentee applications should open up next week. So in case you're wanting to join the mentorship program, you can scan the QR code, or you can find me on the Slack or on LinkedIn, wherever. Carrie Belcher, so feel free to ask me questions or find me. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Carrie. Okay. I know I've seen everyone chatting, but we have a fun icebreaker for you all. It's Trivia Thursday, so we're gonna go ahead and start that.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jen, or you can call me JT. Okay. Okay. Can we do it?
Yeah, you're in here, right?
No. Well, I logged in from there, but I can log in from here.
Yes.
One moment, please.
Where's your mouse? I know.
Okay. 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 This icebreaker will be through your phone. So if you have your phone, tablet, whatever it is, if you don't have it, you can let your friends. And we're gonna do this. Okay. All right. So have any of you used Mentimeter before? Or like Kahoot or something like that? Okay, so this is like the same thing. You have a code or a QR code. So go to this website, menti.com, and please enter the code right here. Okay, right here. 66778. 8415, or you can try and scan. So again, for the folks that are online, go to menti.com, 66778415. And we'll begin in like a minute-ish. While you're waiting, there are some cute emojis here that you can tap on. Love this. Meow. Thumbs up. I have no idea. Okay. Okay. Is everyone ready? Okay, we're gonna get this started then. Question one. Wait, it's not looking at me. What's the name of this group? Okay, 4. Very good. Okay, question 2. Where is this? Very good. Okay, question 3. What does UX stand for? I forgot which anime that is from our original animation. Okay, very good. Everyone got it. Number 4. What is UI? Very good, everybody. User interface. And the last one. This is for you guys. Leslie, are you ready for this? Tell me. Make it good because it'll appear on the screen. Okay, we got a lot of yeses. Yes, yeah. All right. There's no pressure. All right. Wait, what did it say? Let me see. Can we scroll? I can't. Okay, well, that's it. The end of the icebreaker. Thank you, everybody. Let me, yeah, I'm gonna log out. Okay, log out. Oh,
Let me just switch back to the slides.
okay, yeah. Oh, wait, sorry. Is it this one?
Mhm.
Okay, there we go.
And all right. Oh. Cool. So here's tonight's agenda, so you're informed. I'm going to finish up a few announcements, then we'll have our panel discussion, then we'll have a little bit of Q&A time, and then just more mingling and hanging out. All right, on the panel tonight, we have Sydney Priestley. She is a user researcher at End-to-End User Research. This is Laura Manzanares Ramos. She's a UX consultant at Slalom. Yeah, she is. Jamie Saludo, she's a senior UX designer at HCSS. And then we have Melissa, aka Nelly Garcia. She's our UI manager at Pros. And tonight moderating is Kara Cormier Hill. She's a user researcher at Spark. All right. You want to say something?
Yes. I did want to give a quick shout out to hi everyone, I'm Kiara, if you didn't hear. I work upstairs at BJSS Spark, but I worked with the director of the ION Prototyping Lab to use this space. They were kind to let us use it, so I just wanted to give them a shout out. They left some information somewhere here, all of the cool things that you see around. They would love people to learn more about it through classes, workshops, and memberships. They have like robotics. I need to come in here a little bit more. 3D printing, laser cutting on wood. That's all you'll get from me. But there is the informational right there, and then the card of the program director. So big ups and thank you to them, and come back into your space.
Thank you. All right. Carrie already shouted out mentorship. We do events called SkillsPlex. It is for anyone. You do not have to be a professional speaker to do this. If you have a UX skill that you love, or even if you want to learn more about something, we are encouraging our community members. If you want to work on your presentation skills and also learn more about a specific skill, then you can practice presenting to our community. Nothing long. It can be something quick, like 15 minutes. You'll get practice speaking. You'll also learn more about whatever you're researching and presenting. So if you are interested, you can scan this QR code. We'll attach the slides to YouTube so you all can see this again. We'll just help you along the way. We have templates for everything. We won't leave you hanging if you want to do that. All right, and our next event is going to be February 28th. It is virtual. The meetup page is coming soon, but it will be a resume and portfolio workshop. We're going to have a UX career coach helping us, and so we're really excited to bring that to you all. If you want to look at any resources that we have, including anything to help you with your resume or portfolio, you can check out our Notion Hub. We have pages of everything separated. Resume, portfolio, if you want to learn about any specific UX skill, you can find that here. You can also find links to our past events there. They're also all on YouTube. Okay, cool. And if you're not following us on socials, here are our socials. We're most active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Slack. Slack is where you'll find most of us. You can type this in this link and you'll be invited. If you have any trouble, since some people have in the past, just let any of us know and we can help you. I just realized I did not introduce my team tonight. Oh my gosh. I'm Jasmine. I'm one of the events co-leads tonight. We have the rest of the events team members here. We have Jen, Ava, Jen again, and Allison. There's also Carla. She is virtual and she's in California. But yes, we're all so happy to help bring this event to you all. And then this is Janelle. She is in charge of our communications team. Cool. Let's get started.
All righty.
Yeah.
Are you pointing? Okay, here we go. So I'm going to moderate. I also wanted to take a moment. I made a really big deal out of sitting in a smaller or like a lower chair, and then it wasn't until I got up that I realized I couldn't see a lot of faces. So while I'm doing that, hey y'all, let's do a sit up, sit down, stand up. Stand up if you are from Houston, Texas. Oh, cool. We got some new folks. All right. Sit down, everyone. Stand up if this is your first time in the Ion. Oh, cool. Welcome. Come back. Did y'all know that there's an area that is free downstairs for use that's kind of like a co-working space? There is a second floor that everyone knows is like common desk you have to pay for, but you can come and like any of these spaces on this floor are free and open. So pro tip, maybe that's too high. And last one, this is going terrible. Stand up if this is your first. I think you're trying to direct me to how to do this, right? Here we go. Stand up if this is your first hexagon event. Whoop. Nice. Welcome. And big up to the event team for putting this together. And big ups to everyone who just let that happen. Here I am a bit higher. So hi to everyone virtually. We are doing our hybrid event. So hopefully everyone here can hear me. Hopefully everyone there can hear me. Note to the speakers, since it is hybrid, that is the mic. So if you can speak up as much as you can remember to, that would be great. And so as Jasmine already mentioned, my name is Kiara. I am a user researcher here in the building, at a company named Spark. It is a design and innovation consultancy. I've been there I started in April last year, so you can do the math. And it's been definitely a roller coaster ride because it is my first role as a UX researcher, and I actually attribute a lot of my growth to working with Hexagon in a mentorship program, through different hackathons, through learning from others in the community. So definitely, if this is your first event, stay plugged in, keep coming, and connect with folks. If y'all didn't do any of that LinkedIn connecting, do that. LinkedIn is amazing. So hi to everyone. And I'm very excited to learn from the folks on this panel today. I've already started some conversations with people, and so I know they've got tons to offer you. So we'll get started just with the kind of, what do you call it? Slow ball? It doesn't matter. With your name, with your current role or multiple roles if you want to add in some other hats. And then tell us, when was the moment that you knew that you wanted to pursue something within UX, experience design, whatever you call it, design thinking, just within the field that you're in now. So we'll go ahead and Laura, you can kick us off.
Hi everyone, my name is Laura. I work as an experience design consultant at Solace Consulting. So that is my role like full time. For when I realized that I wanted to be a consultant, I was mainly looking for internships. So I just randomly stumbled into like this role. They did not have openings, so I swooped in into the role. That's how I got into like my current role. But other than that, like UX, I did marketing for my bachelor. So I did marketing research, influencer marketing, and that was kind of my main focus on product development. So that kind of translated into what is now my career.
So I'm Melissa Garcia. I'm a UI design manager at Rose. I've been here for about 6 years now, and I kind of got my start in agency work, so this is definitely different as it's more enterprise software. And I've kind of had to wear multiple hats because I've done UI, UX, and development. So I think that really kind of shaped the way that I kind of was able to try a little bit of everything. So that kind of really brought me to the whole UI design management role, and the fact that I love mentoring people and really just love anything that has to do with typography, colors, design systems, and so that's kind of what led me to this position.
I'm Jamie Toledo. I am a senior UX designer. I got my bachelor's in technical writing, and I got my master's in professional writing and technical communication, so I'm really solid in writing. I joined my company almost 17 years ago, and I joined as a technical writer. While there, I got into design before UX became a popularized term, because as I do documentation for the software, for the features that are already completed by the engineers, as I'm documenting, I'm realizing, the screen should not take 20 steps to complete. There surely is an easier way to do this. And so, long story short, I helped introduce a design process. So I evolved from being a technical writer to a technical communicator and designer into a UX designer and developer, and then now I'm a senior UX designer. So that's how I got rolled into that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sibby Priestley. I am a senior UX researcher at Indian User Research. I'm also a full-time dog mom, 100%. I got a little fluke. His name is Case, and he's a little sheepadoodle, and he is my pride and joy. I actually started, I have an undergraduate program back in Lubbock, Texas, at Texas Tech University. That's where I graduated from. With my bachelor's in psychology, and that is where I was introduced into human factors and UX research. So I started working under some individuals in labs and did some research there, and then I came to get my master's in human factors engineering up here in Houston, and found Indian User Research, and we are a consulting firm that works with prototyping designs, physical, software, hardware, and we actually implement any part of the design process. So from just building, thinking of ideas, concept testing, all the way to the final product, and then even looking back a year later, seeing what's working and what doesn't.
Thank you for sharing that. And just hearing you all's different kind of stories, I love that because it shows that there isn't always like that direct path of like, I saw UX, I wanted UX, I applied for UX, I now do UX. So hearing those kind of winding journeys is really interesting. I'm curious, were there things that you thought would be part of either the work that you do or the world of now UX that have changed since you've been in this role, or that like anything that took you by surprise, like being from the outside to now being on the inside? And that can be whoever first you think of. It looks like you had something.
I want to hear what everyone
Okay.
Then I could start on this. So when I first started, I was fully, working obviously in person, and then COVID hit, right? So there's a lot of hurdles that a lot of businesses had to accommodate by, right? And so one of the issues was, how do you still do valid research for anybody when we can't see each other, we can't talk to each other, we can't do any of those things. So a lot of individuals, a lot of companies, a lot of UX researchers started utilizing Zoom and started looking at our methodology and our steps, and how to incorporate something that is such a tangible, like you're talking to someone, you're doing that outside thinking, you're doing your thinking protocol, to now being like, okay, we're going to do a concept testing, you're still going to do a sus score, and we're going to figure this out this way, and you do it through Zoom, right? So a lot of teams started introducing, shipping products to people's homes, so that way they could still have that process, and then coming back and somehow getting that process back to you, and still getting that same tangible information. We learn that we can learn more from an individual in their home environment. So if you're looking at, we'll say a laptop, for example, looking at that home ecosystem and that environment in which they're unboxing, that shows a lot about a design team, about the engineering team, of how they should incorporate those types of work. And then progressing on until now, it's now interesting that we're doing a hybrid. So now a lot of the teams are open to the idea of doing, not in-person testing, but actually working remote, and then even getting a broader individuals of your user group. So getting people all the way from California, all the way over. I've done work where we've worked with people in Singapore. So it just opens up so many new doors that, UX was kind of closed behind for a while, and COVID kind of brought that up out of us, and we had to get our thinking caps on, and it turned out to be an interesting time, but it was well worth it.
I feel that at the beginning of my journey, transitioning into becoming a UX designer, I felt that whenever I was taking like those many courses, I thought, or the message that it gave me was that we're just designing and that's it. But as I kept on researching a lot more, it goes in deeper. There's research, there's heuristics, there's so many things that obviously make this beautiful interface, but there's so much that goes in, and that made me really appreciate all the hard work that everyone in the team does, because at the beginning it was more like graphic design, but towards the end of, as I continue my journey even now, it's a lot more in strategy. It's something that sometimes I have to explain to people transitioning into UX. Like, these are so many resources here, like, take them all, because at times when I first started, that's where I was doing all of my mistakes, and until someone actually was helping me and guiding me. So that's what I learned so far.
And mentorship, it's important. Stay tuned. But I love also hearing how UX itself changes, and like our understanding grows deeper. And so even like within like already working in the role, you're still learning, you're still growing. And I think that's an important part of like the aspect of like breaking in. It can feel like, Jamie and I were talking about this before, it can feel like you're supposed to know everything within that 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 9 months or whatever, but it's definitely a continual learning process. So I think taking a step back and thinking about when we were first getting into the roles that you now hold, how did you know that you wanted because you all represent kind of various roles within the UX sphere, how did you know that you wanted the role that you currently have? Maybe, Nelly, can I start with you?
Sure. Well, for me, I think a lot of my experience in agency work, even though it was at times like very crazy and chaotic, I really appreciated the fact that I was able to try a little bit of everything. Because I think towards the beginning, I was I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I was really interested in so many things. And so I think for me, getting to try it out and doing a little bit of everything really helped. And it also made me feel like I was a stronger designer in general. Something that I didn't think I would enjoy was development, and now I completely enjoy and love development so much. But I think for me, UI design was the main thing that stood out to me, because I was still able to kind of be the bridge between the UX team and the development team. I would say we are kind of like the final touch, the final pass to that team. And also, we are able to like also help them out. And in my team, we're kind of more of a hybrid where we do both UI design and we also get to touch some dev code as well. And so for me, I did not want to let go of the development, and I still wanted to do something in UX. So for me, UI design was kind of like that bridge that really made me happy and made me feel like it was challenging enough for me to stay in this position. And now I am a manager and helping other UI designers, and I feel like that's something that I see a lot more in people is they want to be able to explore and not just be like in one specific area. And I think that's good. I think it's good to like grow and do research and UX. So I think that for me has definitely evolved my management style as well.
Other thoughts on what made you think of this specific role for yourself? Which I know you've had a transition of many roles, Jamie.
So to clarify, everyone, on my role. So I'm a senior UX designer, but essentially I'm a generalist. So I have a very small team of designers. It's just 3 of us. And so the reason why I pursued where I am today, which kind of gave you a little bit of story of that the transition from tech writing into design, because before we get to the end, it's too late. There needed to be a way to backtrack and figure out what we're going to develop before it actually happens, because development is pretty expensive, and a lot of wasted work and rework was a common issue. So before UX became a very popularized thing, before it was even a thing, and it was something I had to convince the company to do. It was really the same reason why I went into technical writing in the first place, which was user assistance, being the liaison for the user, having empathy for the user to be able to use the product well. And so what drove me to do it was really the passion and wanting to really succeed in providing that user assistance. So fast forward to where I am today, and that's what we continue to do. We do the research, we do the interaction design, we do the UI design, we do everything from A to Z to ensure that the end user is able to use the product successfully in the field. So HSS provides a construction software solution. So we're dealing with a very low tech type of group of users. They are doing dangerous work, really. They're out in the field, they're in a very harsh environment, and the last thing that they need to do is to figure out technology. They just need to track the work that they're doing and get back to the more important things and keep their employees safe and keep the job running. So we want to make that experience as seamless as possible so they don't have to fuss with it and they can move on to their day. So for me, it's always just that empathy and making sure that they get what they need and we are not the bottleneck that's holding them back from it.
And I think flipping that question even, I'm wondering, so for obviously the theme of this panel, breaking into UX, being on the other side, it can be again overwhelming to see all the different kinds of work you can do, the different roles. What do you think is required as a beginner to do? Not obviously your current role, because y'all got years on you, but to do the kind of work that you do, what kind of either mindset, experience do you think is helpful for starting off in the lane that you're in?
I can go first. Once you're able to communicate your portfolio piece at a confident level, and it may not be the most perfect portfolio piece, and maybe the information might not be the end result that you wanted, but if you're able to fully communicate the goal, your deliverables, all of that information, it just boosts like something in you. It's like that confidence that radiates to that interviewer, and it shows that you know what you're talking about, and it shows that you're actually really interested in what you're doing. So it's just being knowledgeable about what you're about to present. I've done interviews when I first started where I would stumble and not know and understand, and what the feedback was, we like your portfolio, but you couldn't communicate what you were talking about. And it's also like, I know myself, how come they can't see it? And it's because I couldn't really communicate that information to them. So understanding your portfolio and practicing like to a mirror or to a friend or someone, that way you're fully able to communicate those thoughts once you're in that interview room. So it's more like personal experience.
Are there other, that makes me think of another question, are there other challenges that you all have seen from either personal experience in terms of breaking into UX, or that you feel like you see when you are ushering, mentoring, interviewing people in, kind of common challenges you see come up for people?
So I think one of the biggest things that I see usually from people that we interview or just like very junior designers is there's a lot of, I think like a lot of people feel like they need to know it all at the very beginning, and it's okay to know that you are going to learn so much along your career path that you will definitely learn and grow and will shape you into a better designer. So I think that's one of the things that I really think is super important. Is like, do not feel like when you're entering into that interview room that like, you need to be like really flashy or like you need to pretend that you know exactly everything about everything. I think one of the bigger things is just showing that you are willing to learn, because I think it's like really when you're in this field, it's continuous growth, like forever non-stop learning. Whether it's learning like different technology or different terms, or even like in your role, like you have to learn so much about that specific product or company that you're looking for. So I think that willingness to learn and just showing that, I think is really important.
Yeah.
I think just kind of piggybacking off of that, your willingness to learn is going to take you really far, especially right off the bat. You know, just learning, like she said, learning terms, learning things that, you know, learning what you are producing, right? So you take yourself, you do a project just so that you have something in your portfolio, but then really like having a passion for it, right? Really being able to take them on this journey of this is what I did and why. That'll take you far when it comes into your interviews. And then being able to, once you get that role, which I'm fully confident each one of you will, just to be able to have that passion to continue to learn, because UX, where we are now, 10 years is going to be completely different. We're still going to be learning new things. We're going to have whole new techniques, and we're going to continue to learn. That's what we are, right? We're people who continuously have an evolution of just learning. So that's what our field does, and that's why we are so important. And so having that passion to where you are never going to be comfortable, you're always going to be pushing yourself to do something better. I think that's really important to know. And when looking for, trying to break through and break in, there are going to be times where you're fully confident going into an interview or looking at your job, and then you are completely going to take a right turn. You're going to take another left turn. You're going to take another right turn. Like, it'll continuously change, because even sometimes the individual's recruiting, or like, I don't know if I need more UI, if I need more design, if we're looking more for user research. And this isn't even really sometimes until you're in the sessions or in the actual conference room with these individuals, to where you kind of figure out like, okay, what is this role actually going to be requiring from me? So I think that's also important to know.
Maybe anything to add on that one?
Just to make sure I answer, because I can go on tangents, so I just want to make sure I don't take you back off the wrong thing. So the question was, what skills we should be that they can come in with to present themselves as
Yeah, based on like anything that you normally see people not doing too well, how can we give our ladies a leg up?
I think one of the biggest red flags that I see in candidates sometimes is part of it is like they come in, they read the books, they did all the boot camps or read everything in all the classes, and they feel like this is how it should be. This is hard facts, and this is how UX processes are, this is how interaction design is, etc. So a lot of it is continuous learning. Are they coachable? Are they flexible? Because there's a lot of, it's not if you're shy, that's one thing. Are you a great collaborator? Can you not only articulate your design decisions to your peers, but are you able to work with engineers? Are you able to work with executives? Are you able to communicate issues? Are you able to be flexible with your own design? And for if you're very regimented, like it should be this process because this is how it's supposed to be because this is based on all the research I did and whatnot. Well, does it fit for the company? Does it fit for your team? Does it fit for the process that they have in place? Like how flexible are you going to be versus what you know and this is the way it should be because you've done all of what you needed to know to learn how to do it. So that's usually a key indicator. It's like how married to you are, how married are you to this process that you feel is the right way?
That's it. So I'm hearing like being able to be flexible, being able to be coachable, but also having the confidence in whatever level of work that you currently bring and being able to speak to that in the different interview sessions as well. One of the questions that came from the community is in terms of education, is it important to pursue do you feel like you get a leg up if you are coming in with a bachelor's in a field that is more directly related now, so HCI, if there are, we talked about this earlier, if there are user experience courses at your university, and tagged onto that, do you feel it's necessary to pursue like a master's to be a valid candidate in this field?
I really want to jump in to answer this.
I know you.
Go for it.
Because I have a lot to say on it. I get this question a lot. I'm going to start by reiterating that my background is in technical writing. I have a colleague whose background is in marine biology. I have another colleague whose background is in music theory. And I have another in digital media marketing. So my answer to that is, will you get a leg up? I might notice it, but then it's really about how you feel your strongest skill sets will be applied in this. So if you have a master's degree in human computer interaction versus someone who is transitioning from HR, like what are your strongest skill sets in providing your contribution and impact into the user experience of our products? And if the person from HR comes in and has a really strong skill set in communication and having the empathy of users because of their background and having to deal with a lot of internal issues and how that translates, you can make your strongest skill set in whatever background you have and transfer it to user experience design, because I've seen it happen. I work with colleagues who have made it happen, and they are way more flexible and more coachable and more willing to continuously learn in the process versus those who come in with a straight out of boot camp and they know everything from A to Z, but they're not as flexible and adaptable in the processes in place. And so that's why I feel like to come out with formal education, yes, that can help, but there's more to that. There's more of yourself to bring to that. So it's hard. I don't want everyone to feel like you have to get a formal education or you have to put in thousands of dollars into boot camp just to break into UX, because that's not true. It helps. It gives you a foundation, and but once you're in the job, it's not always as black and white as what you read. The dynamics are going to be different with the teams you work with. The company culture is going to be different. The way they handle design is going to be different. And none of that can always be documented somewhere.
Yeah, I love the affirmative nod.
I can go in many directions on this because I feel like I always have to say something like, don't spend $7,000 yet.
I mean, I think honestly, I agree completely with everything. It is really much more about the person and kind of like what they're bringing. Again, effectively communicating your passion, your work is super important. Being able to collaborate as a team, I think it's also extremely important. But I think it doesn't really matter your background skills. Like for example, at Pros, we do a lot of cross training to where there's people like in HR, or there's someone in sales, or that is interested in UX, and so we do mentorships internally, and that sometimes will create like a spark, and they'll actually maybe want to see if they can transfer over to the UX team, or even sometimes there's a new opportunity for them. Um, and I think that is always super important to know that again, I don't want to say like it is important to have a strong foundation, but you can get a strong foundation also from working and gathering those skills. So even if you're starting out as a junior, you're picking up so many skills that, again, like she said, it's not black and white. It's always very different than what you see in school, because every job is going to be super different. Recently, I had a UI developer who was interested in UI design. He's been basically mentoring for the last year and working, and I've been giving him like projects and stuff, and he recently moved over to the UX team. So again, you don't have to have that specific background. There's just the need that you want to learn more about it, and just know that you're going to progressively grow.
I could jump in as someone that's completing like their master's degree in UX. Where I currently work, there are people without degrees, there are people with boot camps, bachelor degrees, and I have like almost finishing up my master's this upcoming spring. So like, can you make it? Obviously, like there's so many people with different backgrounds in the company. But my decision towards getting my master's is because I do want to specialize into a little bit more of those niche roles that sometimes in consultancy they are required to be in like really cool projects or really cool roles, and that's something I want. Like I do want to be more focused in accessibility. That's something I do want to do, or that networking within my school. I do go to UT Austin, so it's a little bit more of an expansion of what's out there, and the opportunities that are there, but it's because of that specific location. Um, so anyone can make it, whether it's a boot camp or you self-teach yourself. But a lot of people within my program, I don't know how to explain it. I got my first internship, my first semester, and that wasn't because of the program or because I was in school. That was just because I was self-teaching myself a lot. And that's how I got my first internship, got my second internship, and eventually got my first full-time offer. But it wasn't because of the program. It was a lot because of that self-learning and self-teaching myself and wanting to learn more and dig a little bit deeper. But graduating now, was school necessary? Not really. It's great to have and hang on your wall, but it's something that I do appreciate. My professors, they are like very valuable, and I appreciate their large knowledge in design or experience design, but don't, like you said, don't feel the need to go spend thousands and thousands of dollars for a program when there's so many people out there that just for that willingness to learn, you can get that first role or opportunity.
I love that. I love it. So it's like, don't focus so much on a formula or even like the words that will like validate your experience, but like really get into like the process of learning and kind of understanding the work, and then that kind of builds the pathway for you to learn more and grow more. Are there other ways that you all kind of learn any skills that you need to learn as your job continues to like change and grow and projects and different things like that? Whoever. It looked like Jamie, but then I was like, Cindy, is it you who's about to speak?
I know. Same, yeah. I think that's, like I said before, that's a huge part of UX, right? Is that you're always learning, and you're always trying to put yourself forward, especially when it comes to clientele and trying to work on these projects, right? Because a lot of the time we're going to be working with tech, and whoever has the best, most innovative tech, the first out, that's what people are looking for. That's what your stakeholders are looking for. And so doing things like talks like this, making sure that you're incorporating in certain types of conferences, listening to them. There's so many that they have for free. It might be like during the day, or something like that. So you might have to have it in the background, but even like podcasts or things like that, just even keeping up to date with new technology and what's coming out there. That could be anything, just any of your certain types of interests, right? You like space, you like anything in the medical field. I don't work that much with medical devices. I've done a little bit here and there with my firm, but a lot of the times I'm still listening to podcasts just to know what is going on with the medical device world. What are the new prototypes that they're coming out with? What's the need from users? What are people not having enough of? Right? Is it an insulin pump? Is it a catheter? Like we never know what users need until there's a voice and there's somebody that to speak out. And I think that's what happens a lot of the times with our teams, is that you're the one that becomes like, there is a need, there is something that we need to develop or change about, maybe something that's been in the field for 50 years, but we need something to incorporate and learn. And so I think going and listening to podcasts, looking at, UX conferences that you can attend, even looking into companies that have a good UX background, and just seeing what they're doing, seeing what their team is coming up with will be a huge step up, and just trying to continue to learn.
Any other tidbits for learning?
So my team is in charge of the design system, and so I think that offers everyone a lot of opportunities to consistently see what the industry is doing. So we're constantly looking at other design systems, carbon design, material design, Salesforce lighting design. I know so many design systems at this point. And just kind of always making sure that we're creating these audits so that we are making sure our components are at that level as well. Things are consistently changing. Components are getting better. New components are happening. There a long time ago there wasn't a thing called Toast, and now they're everywhere. So I think there's always just room to grow and room for improvement. So one thing that we like to do is we use Figma, and so we have an exploratory branch that we can create. And say, for example, you want to go wild on the drop down and do something completely different. So I think that for us is super important to have in our team, so that there is the ability to continually innovate and create new things. And not only it might not actually be added into the design system, but it's also a really good opportunity to just continue to practice what is out there and any new design trends. And really, I think it's also about having fun and just making sure that you're also enjoying your job and keeping that passion for design. Because I think that's one of the bigger things that people really like about this field, is that there's a lot of passion that goes into it. So I think just that continuous learning and growth and experimentation, always do that, because that's just going to keep you fresh and revitalized and really loving.
I have something to add. So something that's very effective for me personally to grow in my position as well as with my team is two things. One, when time permitted, we carve out time to do UX exercises, and we'll do that with the different challenges will vary. Event idea, by the way, and we'll have a topic, and it'll be randomized, and then we'll start kind of creating these solutions within a lot of time frame, and then we go around and we start discussing it. We start doing the design decisions around this and that, what the solution would be, and then the other side would just basically synthesize on it and kind of poke holes in it for you to kind of go through your logic and whatnot. So it's a real good challenge to really think, to get your brain working on it, and it helps with us. It continues our growth that way, and it also does team bonding. The other thing that we do is we have a peer review process. So this keeps our own biases in check, because you know, you are in the project, you work with the people, you talk to all the stakeholders, you got all the research, but then someone from the outside looking in is like, what about this? And you're like, wow, you just ruined my design. Okay, so go back and rethink this. And because we're not perfect, we're gonna miss some things, and just having that extra pair of eyes will help keep your biases in check and make sure that you're actually coming up with a solution that is beneficial. So those two things are one of the best things for us to, for myself to grow, as well as my team members.
Yeah.
Add one more thing because I just realized it. If you're thinking or wondering like what should you be looking at, right? Like what types of prototypes, or like she mentioned Figma, right? It's very common knowledge. Everyone knows Figma, but what I would encourage you to do, and this is what I tell like individuals that I mentor, is look at jobs or even roles that you would want, right? So go on LinkedIn, go on a Glassdoor, go on Indeed, and just look at companies you want to work for, or a job role, and then go to those criterias and see like what they're asking for, you know, and then that way it'll give you, if you don't know one of the certain programs that they're using or something like that, and you think it'd be of interest, that's a great way to start. And then from there, it just starts trickling down. And then that way it keeps you still in the loop with the things that you know. And then that way you kind of see where the company is going and growing, and then it just continues to grow that way.
I love that. I have one more question that I'll ask, and then I'll open it up. So start thinking about what burning questions you're having. But as you all know, Hexagon is a community for women and non-binary folks in this field. And so I'm curious, what are the challenges, if any, that you feel like you have kind of been confronted with as a woman in the workforce or in your current career stream?
All right, I'll go.
It's so class, I don't know why it's not in there, you know?
So, and this probably sounds worse than it really is. So, as a woman in general in the workplace, because if I see a need, just in general, like we got kitchen duty, I'm gonna organize something, you know, make sure it gets done or whatever. Oh, it's Christmas, we got Christmas decorations, we're gonna decorate for blah, blah, blah. Somehow, at the end, it's like, oh, Jamie's the team mom, or she's the department mom, she's the company mom, you're planning the party, right? And if that was a male, would they say, you're the team dad, you're the company dad? I don't think that would actually happen. So being pegged as team mom, it sounds worse than it is. Like, I get what they're trying to say. It's like, oh, thanks for keeping a tight ship. Really, it should be like, you're the glue, or something like, it's something better than, you know, kind of putting a gender to it, where it's like, oh, thanks for being team mom. It's like, no. Like, happy to share the love. We should all pitch in and do something.
You too can have this title.
You too can be a team mom.
No, I can, we can like see and agree with that. Like your strengths and kind of habits being relabeled as something that's like gender specific and not as like career changing, career specific. Like, if you're gonna compliment me, say it's like because I'm really organized, or that I like see a problem and I go in and I can like help like resolve it. Right. Other things.
So I think for me, I read a statistic that was basically saying that 11% of women are in creative director or design management roles in our field. So I think obviously this field is really male dominated. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I always like. If I'm gonna work for a company, one of the biggest things that I look for is how many senior leadership are there at the company that are women. I think that's a good indicator to see, do they empower women in their company? Are there ways that they show that, you know, for example, are there extracurricular groups or anything that they kind of show that they are all about empowering women, or women are on the same platform as men? So I think that's one of the things that I really like about my current company. Pros, we have many small little groups that are catering to different groups. And so, for example, one of our biggest groups is Wave, which is a all women group that comes from together from all sectors of the company. And we have little mini talks, and we also talk about certain things like, how not to be like the token teen mom, or how to definitely like elevate yourself in your career. And so I think it's really important that when you're out there seeking for jobs, look for those red flags and make sure that you're at a place that is, that you feel comfortable that you can take that leadership position as a woman. Because again, like I said, it is very male dominated. You will see that a lot in different agencies, different even big corporations. So definitely something to look out for.
So my company at End to End is woman founded and woman run. So woo! Yeah, that's right. Both of my founders are women. And so they take a huge pride in that. And so it's been a really amazing experience to see that and hearing other individuals who don't necessarily have that same experience. But just because our company is woman owned, there is a huge male presence, especially when it comes to UX. So as a UX researcher, you're interacting with a lot of people in software design, hardware design. You're looking at stakeholders, and a lot of those are male individuals. And so the one thing to learn, and it's a continuing growing thing, is make yourself known, make yourself heard, and make sure that you have that voice and you have that empowerment, because you got it.
You don't put on the spot.
Being in consultancy, you get to work in different areas of UI for different industries. Like you're project based. So one couple of weeks you're like a researcher, another one you're like an interaction designer, IA person. So it's not really against my company. They treat me pretty well so far. But when it comes to being in projects and having to articulate like design decisions against clients, and sometimes you can feel like, or you can feel the pushback because it's that trust that they don't really feel. So it's not really against my company, but it's towards like client work. But I also have like support system from my team that helps me like navigate some conversations with clients. So as a pro, once you have like a really good strong team that can help you out towards delivering the end product or end project.
I love hearing also the different versions of support that like show up, and also to like look out for in your next role or in the next like companies that you're considering. So thank you all for those answers. I'm curious, how are we going to integrate anything that's coming from?
I do have original questions, but we could like go back and forth, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So opening it up to the crowd, I would say if you do have a question, can you stand up, say your name? We're trying to create a community. We want to know you. And then direct your question to, it can be someone specific, or if it's to all, that's fine too. Just let us know. So does anyone have any questions in the crowd? Yes. Okay. Can you stand up, please?
Great. I'm Melody.
Sorry. It's a different dynamic. It's been a while since I've been in person. Sorry, y'all.
So I just finished a boot camp in July of 2022, and since then I have been unemployed, and at this point, I am applying to literally every single position I'm seeing on LinkedIn. In the beginning, I had values, and now I do not. You know what I mean? Like, so do y'all have any? And like at this point, I feel like I'm applying to literally every single job that I see, and I feel like every job requires 2+ years of experience. I'm not seeing any like entry level jobs, like junior positions, and all the internships that are available are only for like university students.
So like, do y'all have any advice on like how to like find entry level jobs? And I'm applying in Europe, I'm applying in Asia, I'm applying in the US and Mexico. Like, it's just, everyone wants someone with experience. So, yeah. That's it.
Thank you. I feel like that's a question. That's a good question because I'm sure it's not. It is the question kind of this time in UX. So, any thoughts?
I would encourage you not to be afraid to apply for any position that sounds good to you, even if they require specific. Yeah, I would say keep doing it. Don't look just for junior level or entry level because those are going to be super hard to find. And most of the time, from what I understand, those job descriptions are written by HR, and it's just a standard thing that they put in. One of the UX designers on my team, he's the one with the music theory background. He didn't come with any straight experience. And the reason why I chose to interview him, and he has been amazing, is because of the way he presented himself in his portfolio and his resume. He was able to use his music background and translate it into how it worked in user experience. He did do a boot camp and stuff like that, and he did learn the foundations. But one of the examples in his portfolio, where he did a sound booth. How did he come across the sound booth? How did they design the sound booth? What made it? He went through a whole research process on how they would approach it, and it had nothing to do with software engineering or whatever. But he was able to present his background in such a way that made it work. And so if you're able to just go back and look at your portfolio, your resume, see how you're presenting yourself, and you really want to make sure it's highlighting your strengths, and whether, before the boot camp, whatever your strongest strength is, it doesn't have to necessarily be a UX strength, just in general, just highlight whatever you can. You're going to get a lot of rejections naturally, but at some point you'll find the company who will look deep, and give you that chance. So don't feel dejected because it's been rejected so far. You'll get your chance. And think of your portfolio and your resume as just another way to help them experience who you are.
And there's a lot of like freelance that you can do in the meantime, right? So that you can continue to improve that portfolio. So even if it's something that you just work on your own, right? You go into Figma and you start designing, we'll just say an application or something like that. And then that way you can add that to your portfolio. So then it shows that you have a passion to learn. You're giving them not just here's all my credentials, here's what I have, but you give them a piece of you, right? So you start giving it personalization to your resume that'll stand out. So continuing working on that and just really trying to drive home different types of projects. Dive into something that you love and just work towards that, and you'll see that your work will shine through.
I help and give an advice. I have two stories. The first one is I used to work at the Apple Store as a creative, someone that would teach people how to use the iPhone, how to use that. But that's nothing related towards like UX design is anything. But the way I translated that is like I was helping older adults with accessibility in XYZ, or I was helping in researching and helping people in finding their next device and probing questions. I was testing my user interview questions and all of that because I managed to translate that retail role into a housing research type of experience. And whenever I would tell that story, they'll be like, wow, they really let y'all do that. But that was just part of my job. The second story I have is of someone that contacted me over like whenever I reviewed my portfolio, and her piece that she highlighted was she's a manager on a juice bar, and she realized that a lot of people coming in were having a difficult time like scanning their membership. So she did a whole research project. She did a redesign So it just doesn't have to be like anything. It can literally be you working at anywhere and seeing a problem and finding a solution. And I think right now she's having like interviews and stuff like that. But that can be like a little bit of experience that you see and have on your portfolio.
Just, I was an architect for 6 years too, so I do have design experience, and no one cares. Like, yeah.
A lot of people in my program are architects, designers.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same.
I
There's
think,
a lot of architects.
yeah, I wouldn't say that they don't care. I think it's really just going to be how you convey your story, because there's a power to storytelling, and everyone in this room is unique in some way. Everyone has some super power that no one else has. You're really good at something, and you have a story to tell, and that strength you can bring to that company and impact it in such a way. So you just really need to think about how you convey your story and what makes you stand out from the rest. Because there's a lot of great candidates out there. How will you help companies too? If we're going through resume after resume, portfolio after portfolio, they sometimes all look the same. You know, there's the same template, there's the same format. You know, make yourself stand out, and even if it's a little thing, your portfolio itself is an indicator of your user experience. How do I experience your portfolio? How do I experience your resume? That's information hierarchy. How do you organize your information? This is all a reflection. So if you're just going to give me, you know, a long resume that's in Courier new font that's really spaced out funny, it's like, oh, you know, that doesn't stand out in a good way. You know, there's a lot of ways you can make yourself stand out. Just really, really trust yourself. I think there's a lot more to you than you're giving yourself credit for. It's going to feel dejecting, but keep on at it, because having an architect background is common in this field. So I'd say tap into it. It's not a weakness, it's a strength.
And I'll add, I think this goes for everyone. Like, I really believe in diversifying your portfolio. If I think of like my career as an investment and like the job as an investment and how I'm like planting my kind of time seed, I think I've benefited less from LinkedIn applications alone and more from networking, and not even this like I'm not a fan of big open rooms. I need a job, go find it. More so like connecting with people like in Hexagon and just like, oh, you do this, like, can you tell me more? Asking for people to review my portfolio resume, let me know like how to translate my story. And then also like telling people different things that you're working on. And then popping up and making sure you're having like at least one conversation, whether in events or like with people in different spaces. And what's important about that is less the actual content of, it's less about like the events or whatever, more so about like this seed for this conversation. Someone's gonna think about you later and just like send you jobs. Like honestly, a lot of the roles that I got through to interview or offer stage, it came from someone else like sending me this job, like, hey, this reminded me of our conversation. Or it came after I like was able to connect with someone I thought like worked there, knew of them, and like wanted to have a better understanding of it. So like you need to get your numbers up in terms of like applying. Don't just sit there and do nothing if you are actually looking for a role, but then also don't underestimate the power of talking with people, because that just, I mean, now you got like 5 people looking for jobs for you. They might be better at finding the ones that are actually like the junior, or the ones they can tell you like it says 2 years, but like they're actually open if you have this kind of experience. So that would be something I would consider.
I've had that still to this day. I'll get on LinkedIn. I'll be like, hey, so I was talking to so-and-so and they were talking about you. And then I looked you up on LinkedIn. So hi, how are you? Like, and then just goes through like, these are the jobs and all those things. So once you start networking in, it's literally, you go from having one person looking to about 80. So
Everybody and their mama. Recruit them. Do we have any? Thank y'all for that one. Thank you, Millie, for kind of throwing that question out first in the chats.
A user by the name of Flora National wants to know what resources do you all use to stay current? And I believe this was when you all were talking about like learning. Yeah, learning.
We were talking about learning. Yeah. So the question was that people didn't hear. What resources do you use to stay current?
If you, one of the best resources I think out there is Nielsen Norman Group. I go to their website all the time. They do great research. They have great articles. They have great videos. I get a newsletter from them all the time. It's good bite-sized information that I could just kind of digest every day. As I go through my email, I'm like, oh, new article came out. Oh, here's more things about the heuristics. I printed out their poster and I put it on our team wall. I'm like, hey, this violates heuristic number 5. See it right there. So that's a great learning resource, and they do a ton of research and stuff like that that validates a lot of their claims versus like Wikipedia.
I do human factors and the Ergonomics Society, and they have a whole webpage where they break it down into subcategories of UX, of human factors, of ergonomics, and then they'll give brand new articles that are out and published papers that come from students and peers all the way up to books that you can recommend and read. They have podcasts, and there are so many events going on. And there's a lot that are free, that they're UX design based. HCI, they have huge conferences. I'm not saying anybody has to go, but good thing from COVID is that most of them are hybrid now. So you can purchase the Zoom and watch it when you're at work, when you're driving home from a car. You can be a part of those. Sometimes they're free, sometimes you have to pay for them, but just seeing what other people are researching and what other people are bringing to the table is one of the best ways. I cannot stress it enough of just how I stay connected with everything. I always am reading at least 1 or 2 peer review articles a week, just so that I know exactly what's going on. And then it helps with your work, right? Because you'll bring the UX instead of doing a sus score, right? Like what's the difference? What are they finding? What's being compelling here? And then you learn more about user behavior and how now we're finding out that maybe sometimes the sus score, especially when you're doing an easy task versus a harder task, how are those integrating? Should you do harder tasks first, easier tasks? It just all comes full circle. So really reaching out to those groups. So the UX group and then the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society are really great tools.
And if you like podcasts, I listen to them all the time when I'm doing laundry and cooking. The Nielsen Norman Group also has podcasts, and I love Adobe's Wireframe. Wireframe has great episodes, and those are just good conceptual, theory-based, good listens. They're not boring. They're fun.
So for my team, we really like front-end masters. Again, we do a lot of development as well, so we do a lot of development training. So front-end masters, Coursera. Coursera has some great courses, especially their UX course. They highly recommend it as well. There's also Code Academy, and we also like to attend a lot of the conferences. Like she said, there's a lot of good conferences now, thanks to everything that has happened. One of my favorites is Schema from Figma. It's always really great. They have such great presenters. I think one of my favorite ones was Lauren LaPret. She is the senior manager at Dropbox, and she kind of discussed how they built their design system. And so that was super interesting. I love seeing how other people kind of analyze and figure out solutions in a lot of these bigger corporations. So it's really good to see that. And again, there's so many free resources. If you're into accessibility, DQ Acts has free conferences as well. I think there should be one coming up actually. So there's a lot of free stuff out there, a lot of free resources. And again, YouTube has a lot of stuff as well. So just whatever you're looking for, you can definitely find it.
And I will add pro tip for conferences, at least for Roosevelt media conferences, and I think others they may have scholarships. So I would definitely ask or like Google those for different conferences. And I also was a facilitator for like a cohort, which gave me like free access to a conference. I love something free now, so don't like discount yourself. If you see that there's a price attached, there may be a workaround. Any other? I'm gonna go in the back and then we'll bring it up. So, oh, that's I can't see your name, but you in this lovely camel or gray coat. Yes.
Hi, my name is Julie. So that was gonna be my question. So what is a conference that you guys are like, we have to go to this conference and miss it? So what is like the big thing for UX designers or just in the tech industry where everyone gets together and we just have to
I want to specialize a little bit more into accessibility. So in Austin, there is no ability. It's like no
hard time hearing you guys.
it's no ability. It's an accessibility conference, and a lot of speakers go, and I think there's also activities. I am going to volunteer because I don't want to pay. But there's also like other specialized conferences like information architecture, and that one is in Louisiana this year. So there's like depending on like what you're interested in, but there's also like general ones like women in tech or anything like that. So there's so many. So
UXPA. That's one of they've been around for a long time. Before UX was popularized, they used to be called UPA, which is Usability Professional Associations, and now then after that, after UX became more popular, they changed it to UXPA. They have a conference every year. This year is going to be in Austin. It does cost a pretty penny, but they have great content. And even if you can't make it out to that conference, they do a lot of webinars, and you can access that all online on their website. And they have it on YouTube as well. Sometimes they have some of the classes uploaded there as well from the previous conferences. So that's definitely been one of my favorites.
And with any of these conferences, even if they do cost, you can, volunteer and things like that. But they also give you every single journal article that was poster presentation, any of the videos, they're all recorded. So you have all of that on a flash drive for most of the conferences as well. So even if you feel as though like you're tied between time and you want to look at one, if you're watching it live, you still have access to those later. But UXPA is a really good one. Yeah.
I just had brain fart.
There'll be more. You'll see it in the chat soon. I was the one that I was mentioning. I got to facilitate a cohort and had scholarship with Rosenfeld Media. I went to a civic design one that was really good if you're interested in kind of public sector and design / UX, and then advancing research if you're interested in research. Both are high quality. So look into it. Anything else from the chat? Oh yeah.
We have a few. Someone asked, which software do you guys use? I think we'll answer this question when you were talking about Figma, but you said
Rapid fire. Which software do you use? Hit me up.
Oh my gosh. Today I've done Canva, Figma. I'm trying to think of all my other ones.
they specifically asked Figma or Adobe XD and why. But there's more out there, so if you use something else.
My company uses both.
Same.
So I think it's a skill set for both. I mean, it's just kind of what you're working with. And sometimes it's easier. Well, it's probably a bad way to term it, but sometimes it's easier and quicker doing a certain design on a different platform than others. Especially when you're looking at qualities. It's something a quick fix, that sometimes in Figma, if you're just with your team hanging out and you're just throwing stuff together, sometimes it's quicker and easier in Figma. Once you're doing those final design stages with your clientele, Adobe Photoshop and all those kind of become your higher end.
So with XD and Figma, those are the popular ones. I feel like it's like Apple versus Android. You know, they both serve a purpose. You know, as I mentioned before, UX was popularized. We didn't have prototyping tools. I was doing a lot of my work through image editing tools and creating pseudo prototypes. You could do that by just doing mock-ups and stringing them together in PowerPoint, and it works the same. It really, the tool, then all of a sudden, you know, UX evolved and we got like a plethora of prototyping tools out there, which is great. It makes the work easier. But it really, tools are tools. It could be tomorrow's dinosaur and we'll have a big XD that, you know, Adobe acquired it. Well, who knows what will happen to it now. So we'll have a super prototyping tool later and then you'll have to learn that one. You can always learn tools. So I don't want anyone to stress about having to know a tool, because if I were to hire someone today and they're like, oh, I am XD all the way, that's all I studied and learned. Well, we use Figma. Then it's like, oh, well, you're going to have to relearn it anyway. Or maybe they use Azure, whichever one it is. So I wouldn't worry about brushing up so much on the tool itself. They are all great and do super great things in their own way, in different ways. What we choose is based on efficiency. Where are the assets? Where's all the stuff? Where just drag and drop saves me time, because we're generalists and time is very limited. We just need to get this done quickly. So it's just efficiency, really. But it can be, even if you don't have any software, just image editing and putting it in PowerPoint, that works too. Then power of storytelling. You're just still clicking through and telling the story.
And looking again on those resumes of what types of software they're like, oh, this is what the company uses, gives you a general way of some things you know. So if you don't have Figma, but you can say, well, I do Adobe, you know, apples and apples.
So for my company, I think like we've used, when I first started, they used Adobe XD and I convinced them to switch over to Sketch because for me at the time, it was like much easier to create design systems then. And then we always pretty much like every year we do an audit, like pros and cons of what the tool is kind of offering and what the tool isn't. And so pretty much this last year we were like, okay, we really need to consolidate some of the tools that we were using, because we were using Sketch with Abstract. And so there were two different tools and the process was really, really kind of like definitely much bigger than what it started at. And what we found is moving over to Figma has definitely been helpful for us because it combined a lot of the stuff that we like from Sketch, as well as having that multiplayer mode where we can all kind of work in the design system together, as well as some of the things that Abstract provides, which is kind of like the developer way of having a master branch and developing like a branch on your own. That means like your own specific local copy. So now that that's in Figma, that was super helpful for us because we're not overwriting each other's work, because we are consistently working, like sometimes there's like 4 or 5 of us working in design system at the same time. And in order not to break things, we are creating our own personal branches. And then basically when we're ready for someone to review it, we write down the notes that what we changed, and then we're like sending it to the people that need to review. So again, I think it is really important, like what works for your company. For us, we have so many multiple mini teams that have their own developers that it's super important for us to make sure that all the designers are using one design system. So that was really helpful for us to build the design system in Figma, and then every project team then can use that same design system, no matter if they're working on a travel project or a B2B, the look is still consistent. And that was super helpful. So again, I think it is what works best for your company.
For myself, depending on client, one client project is Figma, and I've had coworkers whose client is Sketch. So if you at least know one, you can like adapt to the other ones. They're very similar. So that's, I guess all of them I've had experience with, but it just depends on like what the time.
Okay, bringing it back to the room. I know we had a couple. Maybe can you give me the time check of when you were expecting the Q&A to be?
It is 8:05.
Was it 8:15 or 8:05 or 8?
I said 8. But we,
You said somebody who's always running late. You said 8:15. Okay. So we will gather the 3 questions I saw at the same time, and they may be assigned to 2 different folks. Can you stand? Tell me your name and question.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren. I'm sure that you all see a lot of portfolios. I guess it's not. And Laura mentioned one project that stood out to you, but are there any others that you will think of that stood out to you and why? I'm trying to think of these portfolio projects that I can add that are personal ones.
Perfect. Hold that thought. We're going to stack these questions.
Hi everyone, I'm Mia. I am a researcher, and so my question is, as I'm getting more experience for those, how do you strengthen your persuasion skills in terms of like trying to sell that certain research method that you don't work those clients, especially if those clients are like apprehensive about why they need to do
Okay. And I think I saw one more.
I have a question. I'm your name tag.
James? Melanie, James?
Specifically, I work for a tech company right now. I'm in sales. We're trying to like do my way over to the product side of things. What do you guys suggest in general, like talking about certain initiatives? What do you suggest for networking or just trying to do this other side? I feel really good about internal mobility, but we have never had someone jump from this side to the other side.
I love it. Thank you. So I say, Laura, Jamie, I think you all will answer the portfolio question. Then Melly, you can answer Deanna's question, and then Tiffy research, and then I can take that the last. I'm sure she will give much more information than me on research, but then I can filter in there. Okay.
I think for the portfolio one, I've seen quite a couple of them based on like my classmates and like what I've seen like from outside, and something that I now appreciate are metrics or like business outcomes. Why was this important? Like why did you even do this? So like it can be I wanted to change the juice bar rewards, but why? And it was one time that someone from Apple gave me that feedback of why are you exactly doing this? So it's mainly asking that why on like why was the business purpose of this and why did I do it and what was the outcome and why is this beneficial? And it can honestly be personally, it can be a portfolio that can just describe that. Because sometimes you don't have to be on the nitty gritty, especially in the consulting side, because we are very business oriented with like UX strategy. So whenever we get on client work, it's that yeah, we know that you can do it, but why is this beneficial for us? And metrics are important. So if you can at least add like that, or even if your research or anything is not complete and you don't know the business metrics, you could be like, on the conclusion, be like, the business metrics that I would love to see was the blah, blah, blah. So numbers are big for myself, and whenever we're sharing our personal portfolios at work, because in consultancy, you're constantly being interviewed by these companies, and you have to have a very short portfolio that talks about those pieces. It's not really like having like this big portfolio. It's more like, what was my impact and how do I use that?
just to be sure I understand, was your question just ideas on what else you can add to your portfolio as project-wise, or ways to enhance what you already have?
It was sort of like when you look at portfolios, sometimes it's the idea, like you said, if someone with one of your friends is just out of school and they did something really creative that tied it from their previous work to what they are now, and that idea was really creative and stuff too. Or when you're looking at portfolios, is that what makes it you can candidates to stand out for. Or like, I mean, obviously it's kind of how they talk through their whole thought process on their research that they do. But if the original idea itself is something that previous candidates have done, that you discover, like, this makes me want to interview them to be part of this.
So the example I brought up earlier was my current colleague with the music background doing the soundproof, at the soundproof booth as his example for one of his projects. So obviously that stood out because I'm like, wow, this is like left field. The ones that always stand out are the ones that have digestible information. Like it's not this huge story that goes on for pages and pages because if we're going through multiple portfolios, we don't have time to read everything. So it's organized well. We can see what the problem is, what the process was like, how did you iterate on it, if it was a group project or a team project, what your role was specifically in it, lessons learned from it. If you have lessons learned on it, that really stands out because to me, that tells me you didn't think it was perfect and that I should automatically agree that this is a great design. And if you have impact on there, like this is how the end result from it, then that project, that having that type of information for 3 projects versus 20 is going to stand out way more because if you're going to give me 20, I'm going to look at 3 and I'm just going to randomly pick one of those things. So that stands out to me in terms of reading the projects. How I navigate on your portfolio, is it easy to navigate? Did you think about how we would learn about you? That's part of you. That's your first project right there. That's how I get introduced to you as a designer and presenting that information to me. I had somebody who had their navigation menu in yellow, and I could not read it. And if I hovered over it, it was worse. It was lighter. And so if I see that, I'm not even going to look at it because that's already a red flag to me. And because it's not even just about it's the wrong color or whatnot. That's accessibility at that point. You're not thinking about readability and how I would navigate this if I can't navigate it. What does that say if I gave you a really complex project? So did that kind of answer it?
Yeah. And then Diani, can you actually repeat your question one more time?
Yeah, my question is about networking. Still other types of business within your company. I'm still trying to do products. How do I network with products or get on projects?
So networking with people to move within the company.
So I would say if you're specifically like looking to move like more towards the UX group, if there is a UX group at your company, find a way to get to know a little bit more about them, about their process, who's in charge, what are the different people. So usually most companies have org charts so you can kind of easily see who's on their team. And then figuring out, is there an opportunity for you to maybe meet with them? A lot of times we have salespeople come to us and they're just curious about how, for example, some of the products work because it actually helps them in their job in selling the product. And so we do have a lot of meetings with them where they're very curious about what we're doing, how we're doing it. And so finding an opportunity for you to potentially meet with them, whether if, I don't know if you're remote or if you go into the office, maybe having a cup of coffee with them, or if you see them in a break room and ask them a question, let them know that you're curious about UX design in general. I think that's a good way to kind of have an in. As far as like maybe potentially learning more about it. Another thing is talking to your manager. Maybe this is a personal goal for you. I know January is like super big for us as making like not only company goals but also your personal goals. And if you have a good relationship with your manager, you can maybe tell them that you're interested in learning more about UX. Maybe they could potentially even be like the liaison that helps you set up a meeting with that manager, and then maybe you can do a mentorship with them. So I think it never hurts to reach out, and then also just having that conversation with your manager is super helpful. And that happens to us quite a bit. I actually think that's how I met Carla. Is she reached out to me when she was at Pros, and she was interested in UX, and I didn't know who she was, but I think like for me, it was just more or less if someone's interested, I think most people will be like really happy to help someone. So I think those are two good things that you could potentially try to do.
Thank you for that. And then Nia, you want to say a question one more time? Quickly.
Sure. So, we're doing fine, we're still average, so why do we need UX research when you just want to design? So, like, what's the best perspective when you come up with the best research and what area?
Thank you. So persuading clients or other folks outside of researchers to believe in the power of research and your selected methods.
So you will get this for the rest of your time in UX research. I'm going to tell you that now because it still happens. I'm a senior and it still happens. So one of the main takeaways is persuading's maybe not the best avenue, right? So a lot of the times these stakeholders are looking at so many different groups. They're looking at their engineering team, they're looking at their UI team, they're looking at their software teams, and they have so many other people reporting to them. So they want to ensure that the research that's being done is obtainable into their goals, right? So one thing is to take it a step back and really understand whoever your client is, what are the researcher's goals? Or excuse me, what are the goals of the entire group, right? Talking to your software team, talking to the engineering team, ensuring that they understand what they're wanting to get out of that research. And then from there, that's when you can start bringing in the methods and be like, okay, you know what? You want to just see navigation. So what we're going to do is we're going to have them do a think aloud protocol, and they're going to walk us through their thought process and why. We're going to gather navigation from there so that way this portion of your team understands that their UI is looking crisp, right? Everyone, all this usability is going through. And then that way you're telling that story of how the results are going to end up. You're telling them this is what you're going to see. You're going to see where your product is doing well at. You're going to see where it's falling short. And then if you're doing, something along a competitor's analysis, especially, that's huge in tech right now, is just to ensure that they're doing the correct things, being like, this is what we're going to get out of it compared to your competitors. Understanding what they're thinking they're falling short of will really help you sculpt the methods that you choose. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add to that just, although I think that's much more, like, obviously coming from much more experience in my current level, one of the things that I'm learning a lot is just like continue learning how and why other people with more experience pick different methods that they do, and kind of expanding my knowledge, and like based on their understanding, it kind of confirms your own intuition. It feels like intuition, but it's actually valid. But like hearing someone else explain it, you're like, yeah, that's what I was trying to tell him. So being able to continue, like, or not being able, rather, taking the initiative to continue talking with like senior researchers or other folks who do research in different capacities, will continue to give you the language of defense. And then I also have been using kind of the think aloud method the other way of like, okay, so if you do what you're doing, what you'll find out is this, that, and the other, but it won't necessarily, like, you won't understand if it's going to be profitable. And as I understand it, I think that's where you're trying to get. Or if you do like the survey, you may be able to get this, but we still won't understand that. And so that's why I'm suggesting this. So either way, just like explaining. If I have been working with a couple of folks who come in with like, this is what I want, and you're like, no, that's a terrible idea. So I think either way, like explaining your own thought process too. It's 8:20 around. Thank you all for being here, for coming, for your questions. My advice would be, if you have any questions, whether online or in this room, I would maybe either throw them in the chat at some point on the Slack channel, at Hexagon Slack channel. I would also think, I know sometimes when you set up like coffee chats or mentorship conversations with people, it's very common to ask for open, like pick your brain, or open, like, oh, I just want to talk to you. But if you have specific questions right now, those are great questions that you could bring to your next like coffee chat with someone. So hold on to those questions for the moment, but definitely still use them out in the world to like get the answers to your questions. And with that, I will lower my seats, maybe, and pass it over to Karen.
Yes, thank you again, like she said. I hope you all have some good takeaways. I heard a few things that I really need, so thank you all. You all were lovely. Yeah, we can, we can just chill. We would love to have a group picture, so if you're not camera shy, we love to just commemorate and remember. We're finally getting back to in-person events. So yeah, if you need our socials again, or if you want to know any more about our mentorship programs or just what we do, feel free to come up to myself, Janelle, the team that's sitting back there. Yeah, thank you all.
One more comment, on our Slack channel, we have multiple channels, so I know you might not be able to see all of them. You can reach out to me if you have any questions. We do have a co-working channel. We're planning on building that up again, so we're having co-working sessions around the Houston area. We're also have a peer review channel. If you want someone to review your work, your portfolio, we have that channel available, as well as peer review, co-working, and
There's a resources channel that I
There
think
is.
all of these things go into.
resources and events channel. If you want to find events around the Houston area that are not pertaining to Hexagon, you could go up there as well. And there's another channel that will come to mind later, but feel free to join those channels as well so you could get to know us.
Oh, there's a channel named after today's event. So the January panel. Just in case you all want to go see the resources that we'll repost, some questions that we'll put in there and answers. So yeah.
Yeah, and I will post those in the channel after we take a picture.
Well, where do you want the picture to happen?
Well, everyone is already sitting right here, so we can kind of just this way. Oh.
Oh, sorry, I don't. I want to know, is this just Zoom?
You know, you're sitting down and you're like, oh man.
I'm a walking cross line.
Oh.